Call the Finance Committee of Washington County to order. Our prayer and pledge tonight will be led by Harvey Bowman.
Let's pray. Lord, we come before you tonight thankful for all the blessings you send our way. And God, we just thank you for this county and the leadership we've got here. I just ask you to help us as a group tonight that we would go ahead and respond with wisdom and with kindness toward everybody involved, that we might make great decisions, be pleasing to you and beneficial to this whole county. And we ask it all in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda? All right, a motion's been made to adopt the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The agenda has been adopted. All right, first we have our treasurer's report from Bobby Hill.
Good evening, everybody.
4.1, Treasurer's Financial Summary. First line, general expenditures came in over revenues, about 2 to 1. I can't say it's not on this report, but we got our first big tax settlement from the collector, from the mortgage companies. And y'all passed the $500,000 increase last fall. And right now we're 13% ahead of where we were last year, and that equals to about $600,000 extra over last year in the general fund. 2000 road fund continues to be drained in large part by FEMA. Just today, we had another $250,000 that should have come out of FEMA, but instead we had to pay it out of road until FEMA reimburses us. 3017 jail, they held their own this month. 1.3 million in, 1.1 million out. They ended the month with 621,000 in the bank. The bottom of the next page, the county overall ended 23,194,000 in the bank. 4.2, the 1 cent sales tax. We barely avoided our first negative month in about 2 years with a growth of less than 1%. We brought in $575,000, which was just $1,800 over 2018. April is usually not one of our better months, so I expect a rebound in May. 4.3, the jail tax. Same situation there. They came in with $782,000, and for the year they're $111,000 over the prior year. 4.4, the road tax. It did better than our local taxes did. It 6.36% increase, and that brought in $140,000. Finally, Nelson's not here, so he wanted me to add this on to the end of my report. 4.5. We had a beginning balance of $3 million, ending balance of $3 million. So, in the world of employee insurance, that's a good month. But I can take any questions.
JP Lance Johnson.
Now, Mr. Hill, is the fluctuation in the sales tax collection a function of different reporting periods? I don't understand how it can fluctuate that much.
What do you mean? Let's go.
I'm looking at 4.1.
4.1 or 4.2?
Well, either one of them.
4.2 is the 1 cent sales tax. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm not understanding.
We just like 2019, April 2018, the comparison. That's my percentages that I use. I mean, as far as like, you have real fluctuations in the same year. Like February is the Christmas from the prior year that comes in. But the percentages I give are like this April from last April.
I understand where your
Okay.
numbers are coming from. I'm not not understanding how the sales tax collected can fluctuate that month to month.
Well, I can't help you there. That's just what the state collects and sends to us.
Okay. J.P. Harvey Bowman?
Can you tell me how much FEMA owes us?
I've heard 1.6 million, is what I've heard from Chief. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Wow, that's a lot of money. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Go on.
How long does it usually take to get a reimbursement from FEMA? I'm just curious about the process, what
Well,
you could tell me about that.
This is from the 2017 floods, I think.
It actually goes back. This is beginning in the 2015 flood. We have not received money in 2016, 2017, 2018, and the present year. The Dye Creek was the 2015. FEMA owes us at the present $798,000 on that project. The state portion is $133,000. On the 2017 flood, which is Brush Creek, the outstanding project, presently FEMA owes us $586,000 and the state owes us $97,000. So it's, we haven't received full compensation for the last 4 years. And we continue to drain our road department, and you'll see later we're asking to bring down some money. The minute it comes in, it goes back into these to the accounts, to the road count, right?
FEMA money?
Yeah.
When the FEMA money comes in, it'll go into the FEMA account.
But then
And
we
then a court
can,
order will move it to,
we'll move it back in to reimburse what we're taking out tonight.
that's correct.
Okay.
Has that been the case forever? I mean, is this recent FEMA activity?
FEMA's always notoriously slow. This is kind of, they did have that big hurricane last year that kind of sucked all the resources, so.
What happened to us is the hurricane down in Texas, and of course, the enormous fires out in California, and there's two categories. They give immediate needs, that's to displaced families and what you call the small accounts, and then the capital accounts, of which is your bridges and your larger projects. Then you have to finance those and carry, and they're on the back burner for its reimbursement. FEMA virtually is 3 years behind now on reimbursements to us. And, you know, and not only us, the eastern part of the state's in dire need because of the extreme flooding due to the 2017, there was whole counties wiped out there. So it's statewide that we're all suffering.
Okay. Justice Ecke?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just to follow up, Chief, if I may ask, what is the holdup with the state? I mean, FEMA is the federal money, and then the state, or they're both state FEMA and federal departments?
That's a complicated formula.
I didn't mean to open Pandora's box.
No, it's FEMA's behind paying the state so the state can pay us their portion. It's complicated the way they do books. I don't understand it, and I've been in it since 2005 on Katrina. But 12% of the funding is a 90% total program. They divide it up to give the money to the state. They earmark the money, but they haven't got theirs yet, so we don't get ours. So it's well, I won't even say that.
I'll say thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Mr. Hill, we have not had to do an infusion yet this year for the jail?
We have not.
That's good news.
That is good news.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Hill? Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we're ready now for Mr. Worthen, the controller.
Okay, 5.1 is the unappropriated reserve balance report, and there was just 2 ordinances that affected the unappropriated reserves, resulting in, down at the lower right-hand corner, net journal unappropriated reserves of $3,546,337. Then 5.2 is the summary of statement of operations, expenses by fund and department. And we should be at about 33% after 4 months. And there are a few departments that are a little bit higher than where they should be. Planning department, 110, they're at 42.6%, but they've had some unexpected repairs on 2 of their 3 vehicles, and they've had a lot of engineering review fees that have hit early with the conditional use permits, and then they have to front certified mailings. And then they've had front-loaded training expenses. And then they had their annual dues for planning, or for the planning commission of $25,000. That's it's just once a year, but they should be okay by the end of the year. And then general services, the purchasing department, we covered that last month. It's just from they attended their training conferences at the beginning of the year. Then over on page 11, Department of Emergency Management, they were a little bit over where they should be, primarily because of they had a lot of fuel costs due to training, and they had a higher fleet liability insurance due to their new USAR equipment they acquired, and then some other expenses that were front-loaded. So a lot of their dues and annual maintenance contracts for their radios and so forth hit at the beginning of the year, but it should be okay by the end of the year. And so general fund overall is at 32.9%, which is where we should be. Then all the special revenue funds, they're kind of on their own schedule and can only spend what they take in. So none of that looks out of the ordinary. And then over on page 16, the grand total for all the budgets and all the departments is 33.5%, which is pretty close where we should be. And that's all I had.
Okay, I want to back up to page 9 on the jail operation and maintenance. You have $909,500 in unappropriated reserves, and it's in red. Does that mean? Tell us what that means.
It means their budget is greater than the anticipated revenues, and that's why it has to be supplemented by the general fund.
But we haven't done that yet this year, according to Bobby.
No, that's
So
just.
this is just
It's just,
anticipated expenditures?
yeah, it's just a projection of the.
Okay,
But so far, no actual infusions have had to been made yet.
okay. Are there any other questions for Mr. Worthen? All right, thank you. Okay, we're down to number 6, which is ankle bracelet presentation by Darrell Slaughter. I've asked Mr. Slaughter to come tonight to explain how the ankle bracelet system works. This is not an endorsement of him or his product, it's just for information. If you have anyone else that you want to bring, maybe to the jails, or Mr. Slaughter may be asked to come back to the jail committee later, but I want to introduce him because he's already doing this, and all the information that we can have will benefit us in making our decisions. So I am going to kind of ask you to limit your presentation to 30 minutes with the questions and everything. So, Mr. Slaughter.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you. You did nice. The monitoring. There we go. Okay. The monitoring with GPS has been around for about 30 years now. It's used in the federal sector for people of immigration, ICE, tracking and stuff like that, waiting to get their visa cards and stuff. The courts use it now in lieu of jail and jail time to save cost. The company that I work for has been in business since 1992. It has actually done Springdale Courts. Springdale Courts has been doing it since '96, so we're about to hit our 23rd year with doing it for the company. Now, I've been with the company for 6.5 years after retiring from law enforcement here with the city of Fayetteville. With Springdale, the numbers that we have, and I just pulled these from Judge Harper this evening, is for 2017, they put 747 people on house arrest. That's what they deem house arrest. With an average cost for that year was about $246,000 is what they saved. Their average jail time or house arrest time, broken down by the number of folks and days on, is about 5 days per person is what it works out to. And then for 2018, they did 700. And again, that's 5.19 days per days on house arrest. They've used it. The number for 2017 is down from 18 because they started a new program to where they're using community service as a way to pay fines and court costs instead of house arrest. If you guys have any questions or any input that you'd like for me to try to answer, I'd be more than happy to do it. The system that we use, the device, this is a OmniLink ankle monitor. It plots every 1 minute, so it tells you, I've had folks that have been on house arrest for their driving offenses. I can go in and set up speed tables, so if they're speeding, it can notify me the time, the direction, and how fast they're going. There's multiple avenues to use for that. The device that I hold here now is the new device that's coming out. It's in beta testing now, is about half the size of this. That's due to, this is all battery right here. The computer that's in it is about the size of a quarter, the chip, and everything else is battery, and then there's an antenna that runs the exterior of the device. The strap that you see here, and if you'd like, I can pass this around. The strap has fiber optics that runs through it, and that means so if they use a pair of scissors to cut it, it sends a text automatically that it's got a strap tamper. If they break the pins and remove the device, it sends a backplate tamper. And again, immediately it sends a text, and then obviously I get into gear and I go to try to distinguish what happened or pick somebody up. And this can happen at any hour. So I work 24/7, 7 days a week with this. So anybody have any questions or anything that I can go over for them?
Is this the system that Springdale uses?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I've been out to speak with their the police officers out there and talked to them, and they sounded like it worked out great.
It does, and over the years with the folks that we have, for the last 3 years, and we still are 2 years and 4 months into this year, they have had a total of 1,693 folks that have been on it. Out of this time, I've only revoked 8 people that have been on the system. That means that they don't comply with the rules, or, again, they also do alcohol monitoring too, which is actually a PBT that they use for folks that have been arrested for DWIs and stuff. Those are most of the revocations because folks drink. So, again, with that 8 people out of almost 1,700 people is pretty good recidivism rate. Because most people, when they get put on this, I mean, they're extremely happy. They still get to go to and from work. That's the way Springdale works it. And if some of the paperwork that I sent you, I send out the rules. I mean, the rules are pretty simple. It's to and from work. If you have to run an errand, it has to be done on your way to work or on their way home. I always ask folks to text me any information, and that way we have written confirmation that I can show to the courts. I put notes. It's very simple to put notes in here. I do it from my phone. And that's another thing. There's an app that you can use, or that I use, that I can pull on at any time, and I can put notes and change whatever I need to change in the system. So anything else, or?
Could you do any other type of drug testing?
Yes, we can do. I do the testing that the tests that I use is actually better than what the probation and parole use. I use a test that right now it checks for 18 different drug types, and that is prescription drugs on top of illicit drugs. And it also has checks for masking agents. If you guys know anything about drug testing, you can get on the internet and you can go and purchase a substance that you can drink that will help mask any of the tests or any of the drugs that you're using. So, and the test that I use actually will tell you if masking agents are present.
Okay, we would probably like to see more people out, if the judges agreed and the prosecuting attorney agreed that, that this might be an answer to incarceration. We're looking at all possibilities, and we'll have to evaluate the cost and whether the county, the quorum court would be willing to provide some money. I don't know if they are or not, but, $64 a day in jail is a pretty hefty price.
It is.
So, are there other questions? Yes, Ms. Hackey.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The flip side of the argument that you made that it is highly sensitive, because this is what we hear.
What's that?
The argument that we hear is they're not foolproof and people have creatively come up with a way.
Well, back in the old days, you could do that. Now, the
old
biggest
days.
thing, old days meaning 20 years ago? 20
Okay.
years ago, everything was based off of landlines, okay? So you had a box that this would connect to, and then it would communicate with the box. And then the box would actually go into your telephone line. Now, these all work off satellite and cell phone towers.
Okay.
So they work with triangulation, and that triangulation is based on, it takes 3 measurements. So it uses a cell phone tower here, a cell phone tower over here, and then it uses a satellite. This monitor is connected anywhere from 9 to 14 satellites at any time. That's the coverage that it has. I've had folks that I've put on here for Springdale that have actually went to the east and west coast to conduct business at times that the courts have approved. So this can be, this could be used anywhere in the world if they have the okay to do it. But as far as like the old days, they would use tinfoil to shield the signal. Now this will tell me that it's being shielded.
And can they shield it with, say, electrical tape, the black tape?
No, because the signals go through with it. And once that shielding goes and everything now, everybody that's on an ankle monitor must have a phone, okay? And now with technology, Tuesday night when the big storm hit, I had a gentleman where the monitor actually, the light sensors went out in it, so it showed a strap tamper. So I had him get his cell phone, he took pictures of it, took video of it, and I visually inspected it, but I still had to get out in this weather we had Tuesday night to go change this.
So that was my follow-up question, is the other encumbrances to not to
These things are
malfunctioning?
pretty foolproof.
Okay.
I mean, rarely do we send them back. Most of the time when I send them back is because somebody has peeled the sticker off. And the app that I have on my phone, I can actually use it like you can go into Best Buy and check their prices. I can scan it and it'll tell me all the information I need to know about the monitor. Last time the battery was serviced. The new device that's coming out, like I said, is half this size, and that's because the batteries have changed so much.
Between the old model and the new updated model, what is the price difference?
Well, the prices that we have set now for our company are based off the volume that we run now. Obviously, if we start running more people through it, the price is going to go down. These monitors, they're about, these are $5 a day, plus there's a leasing fee, and then the alcohol are actually $6 a day, and then a leasing fee. I mean, so that's the biggest cost right there, to lease it. And the reason most people lease is because of the technology changes so much. So
So how often are they updated?
This one is 4 years old, and they're coming out with the new one. So
That's not too bad.
it goes about that. And
Is there a trade-in
to that,
like you do with
no,
old
I don't-
cars?
No, I think that's why our company leases it, is because it just goes back into it. And plus, they do if there's any maintenance to it, if a battery goes bad, because that can happen at times, the device tells me when you plug it in. It tells me when you plug it in, it tells me how long you charge for, because people will tell me, I charge that thing all night. And then I can bring it up on my computer and say, no, it shows that you charge it for 15 minutes. And so, I mean, they're very, very smart. They're very intelligent.
Creative.
Yes, and they also have alcohol devices that are like this. It's called a TAD device, which is a transdermal alcohol device. And what it does is it cups against your skin. Well, the perspiration that comes off your skin, it pulls that in and it'll give you a quantitative level for alcohol.
So those on DUIs or DWIs, we don't have what we used to see in Houston, the
No, well, what we
breathalyzers?
I have a PBT that I use, and I actually have one here if you'd like to look at that. But it's a PBT and it comes off your breath, and the reason I like using those are because those are very accurate. The ones that you hook to your skin, it's called a CAM device too, which is continuous alcohol monitoring. But the problem with that is, and I've used those in the past, is that you could spray perfume, walk through it, and they're so sensitive that it'll actually pick it up. Now, me as the operator or the person behind the scene here, and with my law enforcement training and stuff, I know that somebody can't go from 10 minutes here to a .32. Okay, there's no physical way of doing that. So I have to look at it and say, okay, they're not drinking, they can't consume that much alcohol and it go that fast, because again, it has to be metabolized through the liver and stuff. So I have to be able to read that and know that. So that's where I get my benefit from knowing that information.
Thank
So-
you.
All right, Sue Madison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm curious what happens if you get the flu?
If you get the flu.
If you're out of commission, if you're,
Oh, me?
Yes.
Oh, I have other, I've
You
been
said
doing this for
you're
6.5 years, and I've never missed me going out to anything. And when I was a police officer, unless I had a fever, I didn't go to work.
well, I'm glad you're healthy, but
Yep. But no, if it is,
anybody
I've
can
got
get under the weather.
I'll have to get somebody to help me, and I do have other officers
You
that
do?
do help, yes.
Okay,
So,
good.
And if it does happen to where this grows like this, I will be able to man it and have the people in place to do it.
Is Springdale the only agency that's
No.
using this now?
I use, Judge Ramsey uses me from Huntsville, and he does Huntsville, Berryville, and Eureka Springs, which they don't do very many. They average about 4 to 6 a month is what they average. But Judge Nation uses me, Judge Jones uses me, so Fayetteville uses me for their alcohol. Fayetteville just does alcohol monitoring right now. And then what they do with that is they do, in the device that I have here, it's a facial recognition, so somebody else can't take it for you, which I've had one couple that did that at by accident, they said. But you know, you have to understand, the oldest I've had on is 83, and then this couple was 72. And he said she was sleeping, so he grabbed it because it was going off. So anyway, and it sends me an alert when that happens. But they're very reliable. And again, you know, the equipment is only as good as the operator. And, you know, because you're going to deal with people that, you know, they don't like anything to do with authority.
They want to figure it out, yeah.
And I know how to deal with folks like that. And you know, I've always came out on top so far.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, J.P. Deacons?
Help me understand a little bit about your relationship in this. I mean, from what I understand, you're going out and actually maintaining these monitors and actually responding to
Yes, sir.
violations, for lack of a better word.
Yes, sir.
Where does your responsibility end, and let's say we would have to have a deputy come out and involve themselves in this situation?
Now, there are certain times when I've actually had to have law enforcement, and when it's a situation like that, I always call. And that's usually when there's been a crime committed, and so I go out with them. I've actually had to go with them and go when we're tracking somebody to effect an arrest. Believe it or not, people will put these things on, and they will go abuse, their domestic abuse, or break into something, and then they've used me, and I went with them to track them to locate them.
So essentially what you're saying is you respond to these alerts or these notifications,
Yes,
and then if you were to observe something that you were uncomfortable with or was maybe outside of your wheelhouse, that's when you would get a law enforcement deputy involved into that situation.
If it's required for law enforcement, yes. Usually, it's a phone call.
Right.
And that's it. But the times that I have had to do that, I mean, I've had folks that were Arkansas Department of Corrections waiting to be taken into custody to go to jail, so the county would put them on the monitor. If there's a violation, I always contact the county, usually the sergeant that's over it, which right now is Mike Arnold, and let them know what's going on and that, you know, I'm going to probably be going and revoking the subject. That's
Gotcha.
The county's been the only one that I've had to do that with those with that type of clientele. Most of the other courts, if there's a violation, I type a report on it. Like Springdale Court will have me go and get my equipment and then tell the folks, you need to turn yourself in tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. to Jerry Tedford. And if they refuse to do that, then they issue a warrant for their arrest. And
Gotcha.
trust me, that's what I would really like to have happen on everything. So.
One thing I found interesting is I found it interesting, this might give our judicial system or law enforcement more tools. In the report that you provided for us, you know, I've always limited my thought process as this would be a house arrest situation. But then in the report, it talked also about you could establish geofencing in certain areas if you wanted
Yes.
to keep subjects away from that area. Is
Well,
that correct?
for that area, the first year that I started doing this, you know, we didn't have any of the geofencing and stuff. Now, domestic abuse, orders of protection, I can set this up, and the device can have anywhere up to 300 zones. Okay, that could be which is one or two, your work zone, your home zone, and then any other zone that you can't have. Like if it's an order of protection, I can put the barriers as, you know, anywhere from 300 feet all the way up to 15 miles, okay? And there's also in the works to where once I get a notification, I call the victim because I have their information. I say, hey, we've got an alert notification that he's in this zone. You need to have your ears and eyes on and look for him. I can tell you where he's at this point in time. So it gives them the ability to get out and, you know, take the appropriate steps. But yes, it can be set. I've used this many times for Springdale on order of protections and no contact orders.
So if a subject is eligible for this type of monitoring, their situation can kind of be custom tailored per se to their
Yes.
particular violations
Yes,
by
sir.
whatever the judge or the prosecutor sees appropriate, correct?
Yes. The only stipulations that I put on that the courts, and most of the courts will put that they must abide by the GPS monitoring rules, okay? House arrest, it's to and from work, but like some of the folks that I've got that are felons that are out on this, that they don't like being told what to do, it is set up to where they're out, right? They're allowed to be out. I've got one now that's Washington County. He's out. He's a felon, but he's out on a medical, okay, because the county doesn't want to pay for two $15,000 chemo treatments per month. So he's out. The stipulations that I put on them is, they must keep it charged daily, and then the other is that they have a curfew from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., unless otherwise work permitting, if they work a job that are between those hours. But other than that, that's basically pretty much all the county puts on them. They don't restrict their movements or anything like that when they're out for something like that.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.
Mr. Lemming,
My question is,
been answered, okay. Yes.
Thank you,
Sam.
Chair. So I'm looking at page 13 on my end. I guess it's not numbered.
Yep.
But it shows like a fee structure.
The fee structure? Mm-hmm.
So that's what I was curious about. So the $5 a day plus leasing fee, does that cover the
Yes,
service?
that's all. That whole cost there is for everything,
Okay.
manpower and everything.
And that includes
Yeah.
the cost for you?
Where I make my money is on the installation fee. That's where I make my money.
Okay. So that's what I'm curious about. So really, if they stay one day, then there's no value to this because it's $65, right?
Right, it is, but, prosecutors have used that. I've actually put on for one day. Springdale, I've probably put on, over the last 6.5 years, I've probably put on 15 to 20 people for one day.
Okay, but that's a very small percentage, right?
Right.
But really where it's going to pay off is when you get into, really anything above 2 days, you're saving
Right,
significant.
and I could actually break that down for you at a different date, but that's most of the time. Springdale averages, like today, I put on 4 2-dayers, okay? And then I had one 10-dayer, and then one 30-day, and then one 89-day.
Okay.
So, but the figures that I gave you today is just where the judge gave me the information, and I went off how many people were on, and then how many days of actual monitoring in a 365-day period. For 2017, they had 3,700 days of monitoring, 3,706 days of actual monitoring, for an average day of 4.96 days per person. It's almost 5 days per person on average.
Okay.
Is the way it's broken down. So
Thank you. Good
you're
insight.
welcome.
Okay, Judith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just kind of curious, what's your procedure for someone that would not speak English?
Oh, I have a translator that I have to pay.
Spanish, Marshallese?
Spanish. Marshallese is, most of the time when they have those, it's through the courts, because I don't know if you've kept up with Marshallese interpretation. There's nobody. And especially with Melissa leaving, there's nobody. So they do theirs all through conferencing. So they come in there and they set it up and go through it. So
What's that additional cost for the translation?
for me, I base it off the young lady that comes to me. It's $50 a day. When she shows up, and then for every 5 extra monitors, I pay her $10 for each monitor, and that's even if they're not. That's just what I pay her to help, get her pay up. I would like to pay more because I've went through 3 young ladies. I'm on my 3rd young lady because they keep getting older and they keep getting better jobs. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Bowman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, I think Chief of Police Peters, I believe in Springdale,
Yes, sir.
said that most of these people that are using bracelets are paying for it themselves.
Yes, sir. Springdale is set up, it's 100% where it's the person that's on monitor pays for their house arrest. And that's where the courts have saved, for 2017, by them using the program, they've saved almost $246,000 for that year by doing that. And that's paid by the violator.
I guess in talking to the county officials, it sounded like they feel like that this is something that would not work for the county. You got any idea what the difference is there?
Well, no, sir, I sure don't. Because like I said, Springdale has utilized it since, we've done theirs since 1994, I believe. For the last 23 years, we've done theirs, and they've used it.
So the actual cost per day, what's the bottom line cost per day?
Well, that's what I'd have to really figure out. We'd have to talk numbers and stuff. But we have, taxman, insurance, and accountant that's on full time. So
So we're talking about $10, $20, $50, what?
Well, the prices that we have now, that's what the prices are right now. That's the max. But if you started running people through, I'm sure we could get it down. Right now, the county pays $13 a day is what they pay that they put somebody on monitor.
Okay.
But again, it would have to be off volume as with everything else.
Okay.
So
Are these just misdemeanors that they're putting the bracelets on, or are they?
for Springdale, it is. Washington County or felon. They do misdemeanor and felony if it comes
So
to
they
that.
do
Yes, sir.
felons too?
What's that?
They do felons as well?
Yes, sir. For medical reasons, and then sometimes they'll do, like I've got some that are out right now. I have 2 that are out that are for, it's sentencing that they're doing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam
You're
Chair.
very welcome.
We thank you for coming. This is, another tool maybe the circuit judges and district judges could use if the county would be more responsive to ankle bracelets. It's just another tool. It's not the answer to everything.
Yep.
But it might be a piece of the puzzle that we definitely would like to look at, and we would like our judges and the prosecutor and our district judges to consider this. And we would have to figure out how we would finance them, whether it would be the person financing it, or if it's going to be, if we're going to save a lot of money in doing this, then, maybe we can do a small portion of that. So, thank you for coming tonight, and
You're very welcome. And
the
just know,
information was very helpful.
okay,
Thank
and-
you.
And if you need
Oh,
anything
wait a
else, you
minute,
can
we got
call.
one more question.
Nope.
Andrea?
2, it's dishwasher safe is what it says.
Yes,
in
yes,
the
it's
report.
dishwasher safe. That's how I clean them. I put them in the dishwasher.
Oh,
and-
that's,
Yes.
okay.
No, no,
Because
no, that's how
we
they tell
were,
us
we
to
were
clean
over here
them.
thinking, wow, it's dishwasher.
Just to know, since I've been doing this, I've actually had 3 folks that have passed away while wearing these. And without wearing it, they wouldn't have been located for
Right.
quite some time.
Can we
So-
see the monitor? Can you
Yes.
pass it around for us? Thank you.
All the judges now, the district court judges, they all use this right now. They are utilizing it at this time. All the district judges are, so
Okay.
they all use it right now. Anything else? Yeah.
All right, yes.
Just a final note, I think Justice Duncan had the better idea of getting the numbers of how many district judges would recommend and what percentage of people would they consider putting on these monitors. So when we get feedback from them, or if we can put a questionnaire. Or I'll let him just ask, because it was his question.
I'm just wondering, to figure out what the impact could be, because if they can't quote us a price, and we can't quote.
Well, we would have, I think that there is a meeting coming up. I'm not exactly sure when. And, I hope this will be discussed and the possibility of doing this. We've got, what I'm really interested in is pre-trial people. We have over 400 sitting in the county jail waiting for their trial dates. And a lot of these are felons. Most of them are drug-related in some way.
Yep.
So, there are things, no one wants anyone released that's going to be a detriment or harm the community in any way. But sometimes people are just sitting in jail because they don't have the money for the bail.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's, yes, it's a felony, but, it's not murder.
All right.
So,
I totally understand.
all right. Are there any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And
Thanks for
thank
having
you,
me.
judges, the ones that came tonight. I appreciate that very much. Okay, we're ready to move on. Mr. Gonzalez, or,
We'll start back here. He's going to get, Mr. Ray's going to get his presentation set up, and the judge would ask us to come and make this presentation to the court. So we'll get ready.
speaking, Mike, okay. We need to take a 3-minute break?
Yeah. So he gets.
Okay, let's take a 3-minute break.
Thank you for setting that up. It's really we have to have the, it's really but maybe this will spur the.
Great idea. I think if they were to be sentenced pre-trial, they should make a recommendation or not. If they're sentencing them and it's going to be pre-trial, then they need to make the recommendation so we'll know. Pre-trial. How, and how, because they know
And if he's smart enough to do that, if you can hook that to their heart and just shut them down before they quit running. On a more serious note, did you know that Ann had autism? It's great.
yes, I do. She and I sometimes compete.
That is news to me and I like it.
She has those, and I've got red ones. But hers are really, really pretty.
Check out these.
I know. She goes, well, sometimes when she had them, and I'm like, that's enough coverage. She just, I like dancing now. I don't know.
I'm sure the 4 people watching on YouTube are loving this.
And it shows where he's at.
My wife's one of them.
Oh, goodness. Is she watching me?
She does, yeah. She's like
I
holding
got
the
your
baby.
water.
Yes, sir.
Where's Mr. Perry?
Oh, wait, I thought you were ready. The motion is ready.
Technology will do this.
Come on, people. If I do that loud enough, can they hear me? You think I should?
$15 a day.
I like it. Hammer that.
All right. You ready? Yeah. Okay. You ready? Okay. Okay. On behalf of Judge Woods, we've asked Johnson's Controls to come tonight. We've been working with Johnson's Controls for over a year on energy saving and other aspects of all of our buildings in the county. Dwight's been working very closely, and he'll introduce the speakers to us, and they have some real interesting facts to present to us about energy saving.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening. We have been, about 2 years ago, I'm going to try to bring some of you newer members up to date because Johnson Controls have actually been before the court before. So about 2 years ago, we started working with ESCOs, which is energy service companies and energy saving companies. There's state certified ones and there's nationally accredited certified ones. But we started looking at much needed energy infrastructure improvements, not just simply LEDs, but also water, gas, HVAC running, thermostats, everything, to try to bring the county up to date. I noticed 2 years ago when we started that the county was spending about $550,000 a year just in electricity. for our buildings. And I thought, well, how can we get the meter to start running backwards? So we started interviewing multiple ESCOs, and we did a comparative analysis, and the judge decided upon Johnson Controls. Johnson Controls happens to be the only nationally certified ESCO, accredited, certified? Accredited, and in the state. So we decided we went with them. They've toured all of our facilities, and we've kind of narrowed down 7 what we call FIMs, or facility improvement modules. There's some things that we needed to have done in the county that didn't offer energy savings. And so I was going to have to come before the court, and we were going to have to look at that. More than half of the water source heat pumps in this building are original. They run off of R22. The EPA has already mandated that no more R22 is to be manufactured. So we have been replacing more and more every year. And there's several R22 units throughout the county. The one at the Veterans Health Center is 30-something years old, but there's various ones all around. So we were going to be hit eventually with that major price tag. Then we have other major life safety things with our fire alarm systems. We have a lot of fire alarm systems that have been just band-aided really throughout the years, and now it's gotten to the point, especially in this building, to where we can improve that. And so we were trying to figure out how can we fund this without asking for a budget increase, without coming to you for a large one. And so we started looking at performance-based contracting. It's something that the state allows us to do. The state makes it to where performance-based contracting is guaranteed. And so what it allows us to do is these ESCOs come, they say, if we change out all of your lights, we immediately know the energy savings. So if you go from a 100-watt light bulb to a 4-watt light bulb, they can easily do the math, figure out the energy savings on that. So when we start looking at how fast we can slow the meters down in both gas, water, electric, and how fast we slow it, we know what we are guaranteed to save. So these energy service companies like Johnson come to us and they say, we guarantee you're going to save this much money. If after a period of time we do not get those guaranteed savings, then by law, the performance-based contractor, the ESCO, has to write the county a check, a shortfall check, to make up the difference. So what we've been able to do on these 7 FIMs, these 7 facility improvements, is of course lighting. Now most of the county, a large chunk of the county is LED, but this will make the entire county LED. And then what we also noticed is some plumbing issues, some just high flow plumbing. There's newer technology with urinals and stuff like that we can just go through and immediately begin to start slowing down the meters as far as plumbing. On the HVAC, when we take away energy efficient heating and air units and we replace them with newer, more efficient units, we immediately save money, plus we get a brand new unit that's also cheaper for us to maintain as far as the amount of refrigerant and everything else, because 410 is cheaper than R22. So we also looked at some things like building envelope on energy like leaking and non-leaking. A building this size, well, that's masonry, you're always going to have a little bit of airflow. So we looked at building envelope, building control systems that monitor the lights, monitor the thermostats, monitor things so that people no longer have control over their thermostat, so they can't just say, oh, I'm hot, I'm going to turn it to 60 degrees on a Friday afternoon, and they forget about it all weekend long. So we're cooling a space that's not needed to be cooling. We can have it to where immediately at 4:30 the temperature rises. At 7 o'clock in the morning, we can make it to where the building automatically starts to be heated or cooled again, whatever is called for. So we're not heating and cooling areas and spaces that aren't. So that building controls the fire alarms. Because of the energy savings that we're saving through every other module, we're able to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for these newer, improved fire alarm systems. And this is really one of the amazing ones for me, because the new fire alarm systems, currently in this courthouse, there's only 4 zones. So when one of the smoke detectors or heat detectors goes off in any of the 4 zones, we don't know where it is other than it's in that zone. And we've had problems like this before in the past, to where dust just hinders the smoke detector and it goes off at 2 o'clock in the morning. So Fayetteville Fire and myself are going through the building. Well, then you're unlocking doors trying to go, because you only know that it's somewhere in that zone, but you don't know where. The newer fire alarm systems that we're looking to use for all of North Campus is one that immediately every person on buildings and grounds will immediately know on their phone exactly which device in that facility triggered. So we don't spend time, much needed time going with fire, trying to figure out
By law, at that time, at that annual reconciliation date, we make the county whole through what's called a shortfall payment. Right now, Johnson Controls is currently leveraged. Our guarantee portfolio is just at $6.3 billion with a B. In North America, we're the largest and oldest performance contractor in North America and in Arkansas. And of that $6.3 billion that we're reconciling annually, we pay an annual shortfall payment of about 1%. As at the end of the day, it is still a human enterprise, and if Daniel failed to carry a 1 in his engineering calculations, that's not your prerogative. That risk is ours to bear, and the risk of due diligence was ours to do on the front end. Pretty simple, not terribly complex. You may have not heard of this before. Higher education and K-12 have been using this across Arkansas for nearly 20 years. This was made available by the legislature to local government, both municipal and county government, only in 2015. So this vehicle has only been available to local government for the last 3 years, effectively. So, how are we going to achieve that? What is the scope of the contract that the judge negotiated, and he's asking you to partner with him and fund the financing? To Dwight's point, it is a complete LED solution for the county. We audited about 3,800 light fixtures. Of those 3,800, 2,327 remain that will be upgraded or retrofitted to new LED lights or fixtures and controls. That is both inside and out. This would be within reason. There were some fixtures that, because they're decorative or the uniqueness of the fixture, they're not included. But this is a complete countywide LED solution for any lights that are currently not already in that condition. The water conservation, it's 137 fixtures will be upgraded, and that of course is toilets, urinals, sinks, shower heads, faucets, cooling towers, makeup water, laminar flow, and kitchen pre-rinse. Anywhere we could slow the water down. That's made up of not only flush valves and hardware, but quite a bit of what we call new china as well. So there's a modernity piece that's provided there, as well as the upgrades to the energy efficiency, the renewable efficiency, and then a component where if we come by law, if I come and take down a toilet out of the men or women's restroom, if I touch it and it's not ADA compliant, it has to be ADA compliant when I leave, excluding the stall, but the actual hardware. So there's a handful of those that the ADA compliance will be provided at that time. The big thing, addressing deferred maintenance, is this project will provide 88 pieces of new HVAC equipment across the county. That's 88 pieces, 213 tons, that Dwight and the judge and the team will not come to you asking for CapEx or an emergency ordinance to fund a piece of equipment that broke down this summer, because we'll be addressing, with one exclusion, all of the facilities identified by the team that were in need of repair. For your edification, with the exception of 2 units, there are no units in that list of 88 that are newer than 15 years old. That was the floor. If it's newer than 15 years old, it was not considered. So with the exception of 2 units, all of those, the 86 units there are older than 15 years. Yes, ma'am.
Do these include the air conditioners at the jail?
The
Adult detention, can you hear me?
Did I turn him off?
The
Sorry.
juvenile detention center only. We did develop a separate phase specifically for Sheriff Helder and his team at the adult detention center, but when we came to scope selection, they elected not to participate. So none of this includes the adult detention center, but juvenile detention, yes.
We are responsible for paying for those, so.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
But juvenile detention, yes. As a matter of fact, it's a rooftop suite at juvenile detention, 14 units. The building energy management control system, he described that. There are some programmable thermostats present in the county today, but the majority of the county operates with these thermostats you see on the wall. They're either standalone programmable or they're mercury in some situations. But the idea is not about the efficiency of that thermostat. It's about having the connectivity, the visibility, and the program management, so that just like your home, when it's unoccupied, you've got your air turned up in the summer or down in the winter. Commercial buildings, as a best practice, should operate the same way. Not only does it drive energy efficiency, but it drives the longevity of the equipment, because we're not cooling the quorum court to 67 degrees over Memorial Day weekend when there's nobody in it, so on and so forth. Building envelope improvements, there will be a significant amount of building envelope improvements to this building, and what I mean by that is I've got some images if you want to see it, but we took a thermal imaging camera to all of the windows, doors, roof penetration, eaves, penetrations where the fire service hooks up, anywhere that there is energy, heat, or cooling leaking by. And all of those locations in this building will be sealed. New weather stripping, door sweeps, laminar insulation near eaves or penetrations around windows. So a significant amount of thermal comfort will be provided to this building, will make it tighter, more energy efficient. Significant savings there. The solar, I have a whole slide about that, but to Dwight's point, it will be 2,011 kilowatts. That is the crown jewel of this project. We do solar in almost all of our projects in Arkansas, high ed, local government, where we can, where the owner is willing. But we've not done any of this magnitude. 2,011 kilowatts is over 2 megawatts. The Public Service Commission considers 1 megawatt utility grade solar. So a part of this will include a petition to the Public Service Commission. SWEPCO has been incredibly cooperative. They have one of the smallest net metering populations of any of the utilities in Arkansas. Entergy or the cooperatives or municipal power companies. So SWEPCO has been incredibly supportive and eager to participate. So we anticipate no issue with the only potential intervening party in that Public Service Commission petition would be SWEPCO. We'll get to that in a second because that's pretty cool. And then the fire alarm. There will be 6 buildings. This one included, you see them there, courthouse, historic courthouse, the annex, the extension, and the health department, where there currently is no fire alarm or there is fire alarm lacking. Dwight, is there a fire alarm in this room? There is. In this room? Okay, so there's no strobe and speaker in this room. An example of that is if there was a fire on the 5th floor and somebody pulled there's no pull station on the 5th floor. If somebody pulled a pull station on the 2nd floor and that floor went into fire alarm with the strobes and the sirens, we wouldn't know, they wouldn't know on the 5th floor, and that repeats itself across those 6 buildings. So a part of this project will include subcontracting to a local partner, a company called Arcom Systems, that they do this every day, all over the country. The guidance we were given when we modeled this project last month was, I want to say 3.4%, 20 years fixed. And the idea of sending it to the street is that it will come back better than guidance, that we'll hopefully get numbers in the 3.25 or 3.10.
So the county actually has the relationship with the bank. You're just basically putting the parties together.
That is correct. We're not a financial advisor. We do not represent ourselves as a financial advisor. In exclusive situations, we finance the jobs, but that costs quite a bit more. We bring the horse to the water and then facilitate the execution of the financing.
Sure. Who oversees the reconciliation at the end of every year? What parties are involved in that?
Yes,
process?
so we do that. So Daniel, his technical term is, I really appreciate Dwight knowing and making the comments about our accreditation, because a lot of people say, well, if you're going to monitor your job, how is that not the fox in the hen house? It's because we are following a very strict protocol that we must maintain, not only in terms of our annual transparency, but our performance to our guarantees, to reach levels of accreditation. It's called NAESCO, the National Association of ESCOs. And we have the highest level of accreditation possible and are the only ESCO operating in Arkansas with that accreditation. And so part of that is that when we're doing our M&V for 20 years, when we're doing our monitoring and verification, which is paid for in the savings, that we're doing it to a strictly adhered to and transparent protocol, so that the projects are doing what they say they're doing.
Okay. Couple project-specific questions. After watching the presentation, there's no real cost savings to the fire alarm retrofit. That's just an immediate benefit that we get out of.
That is correct. Okay. The benefit is, the alternative is Dwight would ask you for $560,000 to fund that. In this situation, it is being amortized over 10 years of the project. So if you look at the project pro forma, which the team did, by the way, when we did this workshop, the first round was 2.5 hours, the second round was an hour, the third round was an hour. So we've got hours. Dwight personally probably has 11 hours in the minutia. The fire alarm pays for itself in 10 years. So if you see the savings, they bump up aggressively after year 11 because the funding for the fire alarm is complete.
Gotcha.
That's the only FIM that's that way.
Finally, I'm assuming if we're going to build these solar arrays, there are maintenance costs to those over 20 years. I'm hoping your model has taken that into account.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If you, the maintenance is the requirement of the county, but if any of you have ever had an up-close and personal look at a solar module, you're going to ask yourself why you're not in the solar business. They're not very complex. The most complex part of it is the metal racking. The panels have a 30-year life cycle, and they actually have a 25-year guarantee. This project pays for itself in about 19.8 years. We round up to 20. But the panels are guaranteed by their manufacturer to generate power for at least 25 years and have a life cycle of 30. A lot of people think solar PV is relatively new. The monocrystalline PV panels that you see in the world, that's 50-year-old technology. So it's not new business.
Nice. So the 1.5 million in operation savings over 20 years has factored in the fact that we will have to have some sort of maintenance on them.
So literally, the maintenance of the panels is to rinse them off once a year. I like to joke that you could do what my grandma Mildred does and run out before a big rainstorm and throw some laundry detergent on them, like she does for her car. Nobody? Anybody remember that? Throw some washing powders before a big rain? I don't know. She's from Arkansas County. So you just rinse the panels off. The failure point, to the heart of your question, the failure point on a solar array are the inverters. The solar is being generated at direct current, at DC, and it has to be converted to alternating current before it goes into the system. That's the failure point. Those modules will have a 5 or 10 year manufacturer's warranty, and the cost is marginal. I mean, you're talking a few $1,000s when they fail.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lemming?
You was talking about the warranty, say like the HVAC units, all of that. Does that have a factory-made warranty, or what is that?
Yes,
Does
sir.
that go back to the
All
county?
of the factory warranties are passed on to the county. So
So as soon as you install them, basically the county's going to be taking care of everything.
That's right. We're guaranteeing, assuming that the county has done their job, which when you're talking about HVAC, you're talking about basic quarterly PMs. Are you changing the filters and washing the coils every spring? If you're doing that, we're guaranteeing the performance of them, that they will meet the efficiency and O&M savings that we calculated.
I know when the school was built in Lincoln and they put in this system you're talking about where you can control the heat and you can control the air, turn the lights on, turn the lights off. The school was in business for maybe 6 months, got struck by lightning, cost us $55,000.
Right.
Just for the computer and the hardware to fix it.
Yes, sir.
So the county will be in the same term, same way.
If you have a failure of that magnitude, at that point, we would be advising the county to look at their insurance. You know, if an act of God, that's right. We can't be responsible for that either.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions? Oh, sorry, Ms. Sue Madison.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have some detailed kind of questions,
I love
not
it.
big picture questions. I've been doing some retrofitting at my house, getting rid of compact fluorescents and
Yes, ma'am.
old incandescent bulbs. And my choices, I've discovered, are buying an actual LED bulb or buying a fixture where the bulb is integral to the fixture.
Yes, ma'am.
And sometimes those where it's integral to the fixture look a lot swankier and
Yes, ma'am.
more compact. But I have thought through it to the point that when that illumination piece does fail, I'm going to have to get an electrician to come change the whole fixture.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of fixtures are you going to have for lighting?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it going to be a bulb, or is it going to be call an electrician to fix the whole fixture when it fails?
Yes. So the county is mixed up with a significant amount of what we call TLEDs, or tubular LEDs. You see the 8.
Like the old T8s?
That's right. So the T8 is indicative of the size, not the fact that it's a fluorescent. So in a lot of the less critical areas of the county, bathrooms, storage closets, general hallways, back of house, it will be tubular LED that are direct wired. There'll be no ballast. There'll be a high voltage fixture at that point. There are
The
no...
tube is changeable, though.
Oh, yes. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
that's what I'm
All Dwight's electrical staff is more than qualified to manage and maintain all of the products that we're going to install. We are not putting in any new fixtures. Where we're putting in what we call door kits, which are more highly occupied, public-facing, stakeholder-facing locations, it's cheaper than a new fixture. When you take a new fixture down, this 2x4 troffer, if I put in a new fixture, I take the whole thing out It's a hole in the ceiling until the electrician wires up the new one. Most 2x4 fluorescent fixtures, what we do is we put in what's called a door kit retrofit. It looks like a new fixture, but all we've done is taken the guts out, the aluminum housing stays, and we just put in that new fixture. When you talk about LED lighting, again, to the heart of your question is really around failure and maintaining those LED lights. And we get the most common question I get that no one's asked yet is, how are you going to put an LED light that you're going to guarantee for 20 years? Unlike fluorescence, when you talk about years of life, when you're talking to LED manufacturers, and Johnson Controls, when I'm talking about our LED lighting, I'm not talking about LEDtubes.china.com, which is a real website that some ESCOs in this state buy lighting from. Our manufacturers are Cree, Sylvania, Philips, Hubble. Yeah, that's about it. We used to do Acuity, but now they're owned by Schneider Electric. We don't buy Acuity lights. The lighting manufacturers, GE, the lighting manufacturers, they rate LED lighting in burn hours. They are designed for burn hours. Most of the LED fixtures that we're installing in this county have a manufactured burn rating of 70,000 to 100,000 hours. When you extrapolate that at 12 hours a day times 365 days a year, it's 16 years, it's 19 years of manufacturer demonstrated burn time. Now, we know that the county lighting will not run 12 hours a day, 365 days a year. If for no other reason, then the lighting will be installed with occupancy sensors. So the lights may, and we had lighting loggers. You may have seen them. These little things, magnetic things stuck to the trade ceiling. We had lighting loggers in the county for 4 weeks. So I'm not swagging when I tell you what we know to be the county's lighting consumption. I can prove to you with demonstrated data how the county turns its lights on and off across its infrastructure. We know those lights will not run for 12 hours a day, 365 days a year, so we're very comfortable saying that the 70 to 100,000 hour burn rating is sufficient. Furthermore, all of Johnson Controls lighting projects, the 2,327 fixtures, the lighting contractor, which is a company out of North Little Rock, we're buying the material, they are our labor force, because I assure you it's much cheaper for them to do it than it is for us. We can do it, but you don't want that. The 2,327 fixtures, we call it fluff stock. That lighting contractor we will over order to the tune of about 1 to 1.5% per fixture. That will go to Dwight for warranty. When you manufacture anything to the tune of 2,300 of something, there will be duds out of the box. So that 1.5% fluff stock that Dwight and his team will put on the shelves, as those fail prematurely, his electrician will go up there and change the bulbs or change the door kit, at which time he'll bring that back, and we tell him when you get 5 or 6 or 7, call the lighting manufacturer. They'll send you the replacements, and you put the warranties back on the shelf.
Well, what I'm concerned about is what we will is to be expected is there will eventually be some failures.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, nothing lasts forever. And
That's right.
the LED, especially in the tube technology, has evolved a lot. I mean, the first ones I bought had to have drivers in them, for heaven's sake. You had to take the ballast out, and now they don't have any ballast. But I still have some where a piece is missing its lighting. You know, here's a tube and here's a dark spot.
Yes.
So that happens.
That would be a premature failure that would be warranted.
But so some of these things are going to happen even after the warranty. What I want to know is the whole fixture going to be obsolete because the bulb is built in and the new ones may not fit our hole, or I want it to be an easy thing to repair when it gets to be old.
Absolutely. The majority, I would say, and Daniel can probably give you an exact statistic, I would say 85% are going to be the tubular LEDs that you could change. The newer fixture, the newer door kits, the retrofit kits will have to be replaced because there's no serviceable part, to your point. There's no serviceable part inside the kit, but the electrician staff that Dwight has is more than qualified.
Okay, well, let me ask you then about your reference to 67-degree cooling. And I have to tell you that I get a little tired of having to wear a sweater inside in July.
Yes, ma'am.
How cool do you contemplate cooling these buildings in July?
So that's determined by the administrative staff, and they tell us what the range is. Dwight left naturally. He knew this question was coming.
No, he's right behind you. In his sports jacket.
68 to 72?
I predict in the summer, I think, we we have multiple different elected officials just in this building, but I think 72, 73 is a very comfortable number.
Yeah.
To keep it at.
Well, I was in a courtroom the earlier part of this year when it was not summertime and there was air conditioning going and I was freezing to death.
And that's because these thermostats, anyone at any moment can come by.
Jack it
Any
down.
elected official can control the temperature however they want. With this, they won't. We'll have direct control.
Okay, one last
The
question.
baseline is 72 degrees.
I like 72. I'd actually like it warmer, but I guess we have to keep the men in their jackets happy. What will you do about the space heaters under desks?
With respect, Justice Madison, that's not my prerogative.
Would you say that sort of fights the purpose of what you're doing?
I will tell you that it is very common as we move across, as we do these, specifically in K-12 and specifically in higher education, that department heads, deans, mayors, city managers will decree that some of those things are to be done away with or approved on a case-by-case basis, because space heaters in particular are incredibly energy inefficient. Yeah. Now, there are alternatives. There's indirect heat or infrared heat that are there energy efficient space heaters, but you probably
Yes,
can't
you
buy
can
them.
sit on a heating pad. I'm aware of that.
There you go.
Okay, well, just keep in mind. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Harvey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Am I understanding that what we're going to be doing is committing for 20 years of the same utility costs we're experiencing right now?
No, sir. They're escalating at 4% annually, which is based off of a Department of Energy calculator that we use that monitors, it's specifically for performance contracting. It takes into consideration the fuel source, which is, for us, it's Black Hills, Centerpoint, and then SWEPCO and Entergy. The fuel source and the historic trend of the zip code. So you're escalating at about 3.85%, and it's common practice to round up.
So you're looking at about 4% reduction in utility costs?
No, sir,
What you're
4%
saying?
annual escalation.
Sir?
4% annual escalation.
Okay.
The utility cost reduction is a 19% electricity. What that does not factor in is any rate increases. So if SWEPCO goes to the PSC in 5 years and gets a 10% rate increase, that is more positive cash flow to your bottom line. There's no way to predict that, but we do have it escalating at a historically justifiable trend.
Okay. Well, then, this is a 20-year contract.
Yes, sir.
You put HVAC units in, 20 years here later, they're going to need to be replaced?
Yes, sir. So this is a procurement vehicle. Performance contracting is a means to an end. If Dwight sat here instead of me and asked for $250,000 in emergency funding to replace these water source heat pumps, you would spend that money anyways, and in 20 years, you'd spend that money again. This is a way for the county to do that without spending the money today and replace those later on.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, J.P. Dunn?
So, one random question on the financing and then a couple of comments. Can we make interest on the money? Because we're saving, it's a escrow, right? So every month we're
Yes.
putting money in escrow. Can we make interest on that?
You can.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. And we're implementing a job right now at Jefferson County. Much to our chagrin, they had some paperwork mix-up, and they didn't pay us for the first 3 months. And they're supposed to pay us monthly during construction. And they're currently enjoying about a $30,000 positive cash balance because the escrow earns interest.
Good for them.
Not so good for Maureen.
Not so good for y'all. So the way I'm hearing it, we're getting free HVAC units. We're getting a free new fire alarm system. We're getting LED bulbs in all of our county buildings, and we're going to have the largest non-utility solar system or solar power. There's no loss here. So why don't we go ahead and pass this on to the May Quorum Corps, and then let's just push it through, because the more we wait, the more money we're losing, right? So do I need to
Well,
put an ordinance on
I
the?
think what we have here is an $8.6 million lease purchase agreement.
Yes, not yet.
So we don't have it, so,
You will by next week.
So can we ask?
okay, are you making a motion that we enter into an $8.6 lease
Madam Chair, I apologize.
Purchase.
It's $8,006,000.
6,000.
8 million.
Oh, okay, 6,000.
8 million.
All right. Lease purchase agreement. The ordinance could be written later if you wanted to send it on to the quorum court.
I move that we send it on to the quorum court per Brian Lester drawing up the ordinance with whatever the correct financing terms.
All right, we have a second. Is there any other discussion? Patty, you want to call the roll, please?
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Harvey Bowman,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins,
Yes.
Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison,
Yes.
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Rich Pond.
All right, so we're sending an 8,600 or whatever it is to the quorum court. That little bit of money, just that little bit of money to the quorum court to find for a lease purchase agreement to enter into an agreement on utilities. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Quorum Court.
All right, are there any other questions? If not, we need to move on. We have number 8, an ordinance changing the title of computer software design technician to desktop support technician in the information technology budget for 2019. That's,
Madam Chair, this was discussed in personnel.
okay.
I'd like to make a motion for approval to pass this on to the full quorum court for due pass recommendation.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, it's sent to this quorum court for further action. All right. Number 9, we have an ordinance changing the title of heavy equipment operator to assistant office manager in the roads department budget for 2019. Yes.
That's fine.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Does that mean everybody that's heavy equipment will be a assistant office manager?
Just one.
Just one. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion is passed on to the full quorum court. All right. We have an ordinance reducing $970,000 in the unappropriated reserves of the road department fund and appropriating $970,000 in the road department budget for 2019. All right. This is that FEMA money.
Motion
Now,
to
this
pass.
is, just a minute, this money is in the road department in their unappropriated reserves. It is not in general fund, so it's road department money.
I'd like to make a motion for approval to advance this to the full quorum court for due pass recommendation.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Is there any discussion? I guess not.
If FEMA don't pay us, we're gonna have to talk to them.
That's right. All right, number 11, an ordinance appropriating $12,000 from unappropriated reserves in the circuit court automation fund to various line items in the circuit court automation budget for 2019. It's,
A motion to pass this on to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
have a second? All right. Is there any discussion? I guess I should ask this before we vote. All right, all those that approve passing this on to the full quorum court, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right,
Madam Chair,
yes.
you need to remember to ask for public comment before we vote on the ordinances.
Oh, okay. Do we, there's not much, okay. Are there any, okay, any public comments on this? All right, we're ready for number 12. An ordinance appropriating the amount of $13,500 from unappropriated reserves in the Assessor's Amendment 79 Fund, 3004 to the Assessor's Amendment 79 budget for 2019.
Motion to pass this on to the full quorum court for a due pass recommendation.
Do I have a second? Second. All right, is there any public comment? If not, all those in favor, oh, do you have a comment, Mr. Johnson? I do not. Oh, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say aye. Okay, motion passed. An ordinance appropriating additional revenue of $62,129.84 from the general fund to the various line items in the sheriff's budget for 2019. I think this is money that's been paid for services that the sheriff's department has provided for different activities, and it needs to be put back in his budget. Is that correct, Mr. Cantrell?
All
right.
Pass 13-1.
Second.
All right.
Court with a due pass recommendation.
All right, any public comment? If not, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. All right, we're down to public comment. Anyone that wants to make or say anything tonight is welcome to come forward.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.